Hello everyone, welcome back to Rippin' the Fence. My name is Jimmy, and in today's video we're going to be breaking down everything we saw from Bristol. But before we hop into the video, I just want to quickly remind you guys to hit that like button and subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it if you guys did that. But as always, we thank you all so much for the support. Let's go ahead and hop into the video. Matthew, my friend and co-host, is joining me, like he always does. And man, do we have a lot to talk about from Bristol. The Cup race today, probably the complete opposite of what everybody expected it was going to be. But anyways, Matthew, how are you doing quickly before we go ahead and hop into everything we saw?
Well, I'm still trying to process what in the world did we just watch today? Yeah, a lot has happened, and yeah, let's get right into it. I feel like this is gonna be a long one today.
Yeah, and apologies if I sound a little bit off. I have some allergies going on, so throat, nose, all that stuff not there. So apologies if I sound a little bit off. But quickly, want to talk about the truck race. There was a little bit of a scuffle at the end of that race between Stuart Friesen and Nick Sanchez. Uh, on the track, it looked like Friesen kind of came up and squeezed Sanchez into the wall. After the race, Friesen seemed like the one to confront Sanchez about it. They talked for a little bit, and then Friesen went to kind of grab Sanchez, and then obviously it all got broken up, and no real punches were thrown. It wasn't, a whole fight or anything like that, but there was a little bit of a confrontation there. Honestly, not sure what Friesen was thinking. It seemed like his fault on the racetrack, and then he got mad at Sanchez and started to throw a fit. But anyways, that quickly happened. But let's go ahead and hop into the Cup race. So the start of this race, Josh Berry, he's qualified on the front row and was able to jump to the lead for the early stages of this race. William Byron, he had a tough start to the day. He got bumped and ended up losing control and hitting the wall, breaking the toe link there, so they had to come down pit road, replace it, went a few laps down. On the restart for that caution, Tyler Reddick, he stayed out and he got spun off of turn 4. And then Zane Smith had the ARCA break of the day, just could not stop, ran right into Tyler Reddick, destroyed his own race car, and I believe it was probably around lap 50, 60 at this point, and we could tell that cording on the tires was going to be an issue all day long. Fox, I'll give them credit, they did a good job with this at least, showing all the tires on pit road, all of the cording and the damage the tires had, and this was at the almost at the start of the race. So everybody started to get a little bit concerned about what was going to happen throughout the rest of this race. Everyone started to struggle late with the tires they had at the end of stage 1. Around 15 laps to go, drivers just started dropping like flies. Like they just went from, like Kyle Busch, he went from the lead to like 20th in about 2 or 3 laps just because his tires were absolutely done. Um, he actually did end up spinning and bringing out the caution with just a few laps left in the stage. It wasn't just him though, like almost everybody. I can't even think of drivers off the top of my head, but several drivers at the end of stage 1 just dropped like a rock. Um, Ty Gibbs ended up winning that stage. And then, actually, in the second stage, Ty Gibbs had to drop to the rear for a pit road penalty. And this was when drivers and teams were starting to figure out, okay, we kind of got to start saving our tires here, got to back the pace up a lot, cannot overdrive the car. But Ty Gibbs, after that penalty, he went from 27th to 4th in a green flag run in stage number 2 because everybody else was just kind of easing off and maintaining a solid pace where he wanted to get his track position back. So he just flew through the field. Looked like he had a rocket ship compared to everybody else. Looked like he had he had a turbo boost on his car or something. He was zooming through the field. But he got all the way back up to 4th, and then a caution came out, and 2 of the Spire cars decided to stay out, and that did not work for them at all. Carson Hocevar dropped, I don't even know what position he finished in stage 2, but probably the last car on the lead lap. And Corey LaJoie finished, I think, like 20th or just outside the top 20 in the stage in just a couple laps. But Ty Gibbs would win that second stage. And The third stage is where things got even more interesting. The Toyotas, they started to take over. At one point, they were 1 through 4 at this point in the race. Like Hamlin, Gibbs, Truex, and Bell, they were all 1 through 4 for quite a while in stage number 3. But the final 100 laps, uh, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Brad Keselowski made their way to the front. Somehow, these drivers were able to make a successful round of green flag pit stops with tires blowing and all that kind of stuff. Drivers struggling to hold on to these race cars. That's the first part of it, and then the second half is getting on and off pit road at Bristol under green, because you can come down pit road on either side. So you'd have drivers coming down pit road on the backstretch, get their tires, and come back up on the track as drivers were trying to come into pit off of turn 4 for their tires. So it was a whole chaotic scene, that whole stretch of green flag pit stops. I don't know how they didn't wreck. I know there were a few instances where drivers had a flat tire and they were kind of lipping the car to pit road. A few drivers got into the wall. NASCAR, obviously, they usually try to keep it green during these green flag pit stops to not junk up the order any more than they have to. Um, but yeah, they somehow made it through green flag pit stops without a caution. And after that, Denny Hamlin and Martin Truex Jr., they separated themselves from the field, and they had a heck of a battle for the lead for the last probably 20 laps or so during this race. So Denny Hamlin, he cycled through the green flag pit stops as the leader, and then Martin Truex Jr., he took the lead away from Denny Hamlin as they started catching lap traffic, and then Truex held the lead for a little bit, got through more lap traffic, he got caught up, and then Denny Hamlin passed him right back, and then Denny Hamlin was able to drive away a little bit and able to get the win. So Denny Hamlin ends up winning the Bristol Return to Concrete in the spring race. So let me quickly go over the results, and then obviously we have a lot to talk about, so I'll quickly throw those on the screen for you guys. Alex Bowman, fourth. I want to give a shout out to him because obviously him and Chase Elliott, they're trying to get back into a rhythm after the struggles and time they missed last year. So good to see him get a solid run. John Hunter Nemechek, sixth place, a good run for him. And that's pretty much all the highlights I have. I do actually surprisingly want to shout out the Rick Ware racing cars, as strange as that is. But Justin Haley and Kaz Grala, they were both. Justin Haley was like fifth in this race for not just a few laps, for a good stretch of the race. Justin Haley was running fifth, and Kaz Grala was just outside the top 10. I'll have to see officially where they finished, but they both finished inside the top 20. I know that for a fact. But great day for those Rick Ware racing cars. But let's go ahead and talk about everything that happened in this race. Starting with the winner, Denny Hamlin, who beat your favorite driver. Um, so I'm going to talk about him and Toyota in general. So obviously Denny Hamlin, we know he's going to win several races this year, be a championship contender. Um, but Toyota in general, they have hit on this new body very, very quickly, and they're going to be very scary throughout the rest of this season. So great start with Toyota. They won last week with Christopher Bell, dominating fashion. Here they come to Bristol, dominating fashion once again. All of them look good throughout this race. Um, and now we come to the other part of this race where we're going to be talking about for probably the rest of this video, and that is going to be the tires, um, and what in the world happened with the tires and the strategy and all this stuff. So uh, apparently Goodyear brought the same tire they did from the summer race, but the only change to the track was that Bristol, they put down resin compared to PJ1, because if it rained, they thought the rain tires would do a little bit better with the resin compared to the PJ1. And I really don't know what happened, and I don't think anybody really does. Even NASCAR executives, Goodyear executives, nobody really knows what happened until they're gonna have to go back later on and see, all the data and stuff like that. But it was wild. Like, it was so crazy to see these drivers on the edge of their seat trying to wheel these race cars around, babying them around the racetrack, especially at the end of the stages when they were just crawling around the racetrack. The diversity between the tires and the saving and all that stuff was very exciting to watch. Um, but I do have a few, not complaints, but I guess you could call them mini rants, I guess. So I saw a lot of people comparing this, even Denny Hamlin did during the race in the in car audio. He was comparing this race to the 2008 Brickyard race, which, if you don't know, that was an absolute catastrophe for Goodyear. That's probably where all this flack started for all of them, that they can't build tires and stuff like that. So, honestly, there weren't that many cautions for tire failures today. Obviously, there was the Kyle Busch one at the end of stage one, and then there may have been one or two others besides that. I know Zane Smith, he blew a tire, but that might have been from damage that he had earlier in the race. So the cautions, most of them weren't for the tire blowing. And NASCAR wasn't throwing competition cautions every 10, 20, 30 laps for cars to come back down pit road and change their tires. That and the drivers, once they got a hang of it, that the tires were wearing really fast, they were able to compensate and able to manage their tires. Like in stage two and stage three, we can see them starting to figure it out, starting to back the pace off, because the first 100 laps, 150 laps, they were just going all out. And then when you go all out with the soft tire, obviously you're going to have some issues. Um, so drivers were able to manage their tires compared to, I was 8 when the Brickyard race happened, so don't remember too much from it. But um, yeah, and then we have all these people that wanted Bristol to come back to the concrete, and then I go into the comment section on, I don't know if it was Instagram or X, whatever, and everybody's like, "Oh, that race was terrible. The tires were terrible." Da 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 da. Well, can you guys make up your mind? Do you want the race to be on dirt or on concrete? Because I thought the race on concrete was really good today, and you got all these people that wanted it back. They got it back, and they're still complaining that it's a terrible race. Like, what do you want? What more do you want? I literally don't know what more you want from a concrete race at Bristol. It was a fantastic race, in my opinion, and probably Matthews as well. So I really don't know what people are thinking. The ones that wanted Bristol concrete to come back still can't figure out what they want. And also, I want to respectfully call out Ryan Blaney as well, because I saw one of his videos for his interviews after the race, and like I don't know, he was a baby really, because he basically accused Goodyear of bringing a brand new tire to the racetrack without testing it. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, sure, okay, he had a rough day, but I mean, has Ryan Blaney ever saved tires in a NASCAR race car before? I don't know. Most of the other drivers in the interviews I saw on Twitter, X, Instagram, live TV, Fox coverage, whatever, they said they had a lot of fun. They obviously said that they don't want to do that again, but they said it was fun. Where Ryan Blaney's over here complaining and saying Goodyear brought a brand new tire to the racetrack without testing it. Like, I don't know, man. But Matthew's over there laughing, enjoying himself while I'm going off. I usually don't rant like this, so Matthew's probably loving it over there. Um, Last thing I quickly want to talk about. It's not a bad thing. It's not a rant. Getting back on track here. So I want to talk about two people that had a very important impact on the race today. The first one is NASCAR's Chief Racing Development Officer, John Probst. I hope I said that name right. He had a quote. I need to find it on X real quick. I did retweet it, I believe. Yeah. So he said, certainly a record setting day for us. I know the race teams are probably pretty wore out right now. I know the track crew and folks up in the booth are pretty wore out from a pretty exciting day all around on the track. Certainly had some anxiety around some tire wear and things like that, but all in all, I think it was probably one of the best short track races I've ever seen. So that's the quote that he said, and if anybody from NASCAR says something about it being one of the best short track races they've ever seen, that is a sign that we need to not keep this specific tire PJ1 compound, but we definitely need something like it in the future. If we have NASCAR executives saying that's one of the best short track races they've ever seen. And then the other person, Goodyear, Greg Stucker, hopefully that's how I say that. They interviewed him during the race, which was actually really cool because it's really good to have that insight live in the middle of the race. from somebody from Goodyear about trying to ask him what's going on with these tires, what's going on. And honestly, he didn't seem happy. He actually seemed pretty disappointed and embarrassed. He was very confused as well as to what was going on. He said that the only change was the resin compared to the PJ1 last year, same exact tire and everything. And he's just everybody seemed very confused on why the tire wasn't laying rubber down on the racetrack. Maybe it has something to do with the temperature, or the sunlight, the clouds. I have no idea. Um, but me, Matthew, and probably a lot of other people are actually going to defend Goodyear here and say that this is a good thing. This is what drivers, fans, media, everybody wanted to see. Everybody wanted to see a tire that wore, and that was the case today. So, anyone from Goodyear, if you're watching this, you're probably not, but if you are, um, please don't make any significant changes to the tire. As soon as I saw these troubles were happening, I texted Matthew, even put it on X. I was like, Goodyear, they're going to watch this race, think it's going to be a disaster, and then going to crawl back in their hole and produce a hard tire that they could race 150 laps around Bristol with on one run. But hopefully that's not the case. So, NASCAR, Goodyear, anybody, please do not make major adjustments to this tire package, anything, please. The fans absolutely love this race. So, yeah, that was a lot. I talked about pretty much everything I could. I think I got everything out I could. It's still going to take both of us a while to process this. This is arguably one of the best Bristol races ever, in my opinion. But Matthew, go ahead and share some of your thoughts that you have based on everything that we saw at Bristol.
All right, so before I get into what actually happened in this race, if you remember at the Phoenix review we did last weekend, I pretty much said I was not looking forward to this race. I was a fan of the Bristol Dirt. I was one of those Bristol Dirt supporters. Um, and of course, from the next gen races we have on the concrete from the fall races the past couple years, I had good reason to say I was not looking forward to this weekend. But after the day, I admit I was wrong. What we saw was a fantastic race. Amazing racing and amazing tire strategy, tire savings, which that was always been a big thing back in the day when it was the Gen 4, Car Tomorrow, heck, even the beginning of the Gen 6 era when there was still so much horsepower. They were all about managing tires, which and it seems like something we don't see a lot of these days because we got stages now, and these tires on these new cars now they're much more wider and they tend to be more hard tire, and especially with the short tracks with this new car, the tire won't really wear out that much. You can literally stay out and you can lead. We can pretty much win without having to pit. So, and for this race, this was pretty much undoubtedly the best short track race with this new car by a landslide, basically. I mean, it was just amazing. For once, we weren't talking about dirty air. We weren't talking about oh, it is so hard to pass. They're shifting all the time. Well, you didn't have to worry about any of that today because you could literally pass wherever you wanted to. It just depended on if you wanted to wear out your tires faster or you want to be more conservative. So, I mean, this race was just absolutely fantastic. I was not bored for one moment during this whole race, and which I did not expect coming into this weekend. Like I said, I wasn't looking forward to this weekend, and I admit, and for Goodyear, I gotta do the Shaq quote right here. I apologize. I wasn't familiar with your game here. I mean, Goodyear didn't do anything, I know, but whatever happened, that tire was a miracle right there. That we were able to see, worn out tires. We hear all the time like drivers they want a tire that they can beat beat the death basically. They didn't want to beat the tires up, and we saw basically a whole new skill set right here. It's all about saving the amount of tire. And of course, if you look at who finished today, especially the top three, they're pretty much the more older, experienced guys. Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Brad Keselowski, all who basically were racing back when they were had a lot of horsepower and they had a lot more tire wear back in the day. So those doesn't surprise me. Those three finished basically 1, 2, 3 because they know a thing or two about saving tires. Congrats to Denny Hamlin for winning today's race. He was one of the best cars today. Ty Gibbs, he had the best car today, in my opinion. Unfortunately, he did blew a tire during the last pit stops, the green flag pit stop, basically at the end. But he still navigated his way up back to the top 10. So good day for him still. I mean, great day once again for Toyota and Joe Gibbs Racing in general. All four JGR cars in the top 10. And once again, just like last week, JGR and Toyota General absolutely dominated this race once again. So if I'm Chevrolet, if I'm even Ford, I'm scared of this Toyota group right here. They have found something with this new body, and that's 2 weeks in a row now that they've shown it. So it's been a great start for Toyota so far. John Hunter Nemechek finished sixth, his best result in the Cup Series. Congrats to him with Legacy Motor Club. Um, I want to give a shout out to Josh Berry as well. He started on the outside front row, second position. He was up there leading laps, and he had some tire. He had the wall a couple of times. He had tire issues. Still came back to finish 12th, but still a great day for Josh Berry, which he definitely needed because it's been a rough start of the season for him so far. Let's see. Rick Weir Racing, like you said earlier, they were in the top 10 at some point, and I was texting you like, is a Rick Weir Racing car in the top 10 here in Bristol of all places? I mean, great run for them. Of course, they got that lines with Roush, and we've seen both Roush cars finish the top 10, so that's not really, I wouldn't say it's a shot, a big surprise, but I mean, it's still pretty decent for a team like that. Um, it was funny when you were talking about earlier with Zane Smith. When Tyler Reddick spun earlier, and Zane Smith basically had ARCA brakes. What was Bud thinking? Do you know what he was thinking? Hey, the brake pedal is in the middle. um, yeah, it's been a real start for him. I do feel bad for him there. Um, okay, let's get this part out of the way here, because once again we gotta talk about the absolute clown show that is going on in RCR and this number 18. Once again, this is another embarrassing race. It did look promising in the beginning. He was out there leading. He was leading laps. I'm like, man, maybe we can finally break out this bad streak we've been having. And then all of a sudden he blows a tire, which that I mean that's just bad luck right there. And then he spun out by himself. And then next you know, here we go again. Back multiple pit road penalties again. And of course the final pit stop, you see his pit crew couldn't even get the lug nut on again, and we almost saw big accident on pit road, basically, trying to get him to stop moving. But oh my gosh, this is this is, ladies and gentlemen, we are 5 races into the season. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 5th race in a row that they had a pit road issue. You know what's the only race they haven't had an issue was the Clash, and they didn't even have to do anything. I mean, this isn't funny. Look, this isn't funny anymore. Jimmy, you're making me laugh here, but it's not funny at all. This is just pathetic and embarrassing. And Bridget Childress, maybe you need to stop firing people. Stop firing people. Stop moving people around because clearly that's not working either. So uh, it's been a ever since the Atlanta finish. It's been a curse. I think the Atlanta finish was actually a curse to this team because ever since that race, we see more of this inconsistent inconsistency. They're running terrible. The pit stops are terrible. The execution is terrible. That's all I'm gonna say. It's still on season, but it's still embarrassing right now. But yeah, what a besides being a Kyle Busch fan today, that was a fantastic race today. Um, I mean, even though Goodyear didn't do anything, thank you for the amazing tire, and please don't change it. Bring this tire to the road courses. Bring this tire to Richmond or Martin, especially Richmond and Martinsville. They need it badly. Do the resin there, like the same way they did at Bristol. Maybe that does the trick. I don't know, but man, I would hope we can see more of that in these short tracks because if they can, if they are able to figure out to put this on other short tracks, maybe we don't need to increase the horsepower after all. Maybe this it'd be the best of both worlds here. Maybe we finally found the solution, but I don't know. Maybe this is just a Bristol thing. But anyway, fantastic race. Congrats to Hamlin. Hamlin, everyone's favorite driver. Um, yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate the accountability at the beginning there. And I'm sure a lot of people do too. And I do it too. If I make a mistake, if I call something wrong, I like to call myself out on it too. So good job on that, calling yourself out for being a fan of the Bristol dirt and not looking forward to the concrete. I think everybody was kind of a little bit skeptical going into the race on the concrete, and but man, just complete 180 of probably what almost everybody in the NASCAR community thought that race was going to be. And then your rant as well. It's nice that we both had our little rant, got a little bit of the something off our chest there. But thankfully for me as a Chase Elliott fan, I was worried because he mentioned he was having power issues or battery issues or something, but thankfully nothing else came of that. But yeah, it's time to rate this race and then give our paint scheme of the race. And a quick stat I want to say before I rate this race is that this short track race at Bristol had 54 lead changes, the most of any short track ever in the history of NASCAR. And I think it broke the record at Bristol by like, I think the old one was 40 something lead changes or something like that. But 54 lead changes at a short track. But for me, I think I'm gonna rate this race a man. I want to give it a 10 out of 10 so bad. I think I have to give it like a 9.8 out of 10. And the only thing would be that the drivers didn't have to, like the drivers like the Ty Gibbses and the others that had to pit and it cost them their track position due to the tires blowing. That's like the only thing keeping me from giving it a 10 out of 10. But other than that, absolutely amazing race. Drivers could fly through the field, drivers could fall back and save tire, and then make a move later in the race and the run, all that kind of stuff. So, great race. I'm going to give it a 9.8 out of 10. As for my pace scheme of the race, very quickly, I'm going to do one that's been in the sport for a while. It's going to be Josh Berry's Sunny D car. Always love the blue and the orange, very bright colors. Love how they're always put together. Those have been very good paint schemes all along. So I'm going to go with that as my paint scheme of the race. Matthew, what are you going to rate the race, and what was your favorite paint scheme?
Well, I guess I'll be the guy that does this. I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for the second time this year. I mean, this race was just absolutely fantastic. I mean, we everyone could pass basically. There was tire management, which was something that was missing in these short track races with this new car, like ever. And I mean, there was a lot of unpredictability as well. I mean, I was never bored for one moment during this race. Just absolutely fantastic. 10 out of 10. And as for my paint scheme in the race, I gotta go with John Hunter Nemechek's Dollar Tree car. Man, this paint scheme just looks amazing with the black, the white, the bright green, and the dark green. It just goes together so well. And I love this paint scheme a lot. So that's my paint scheme of the week.
Alright, well, this video has gotten pretty long. Sorry about that, but there was a lot to digest and in a good way. So hopefully you guys stuck around for this long. If so, thank you. We appreciate it. Let us know your comments about the race down below, about the whole tire strategy. What do you think about the race and the short track package moving forward? But yeah, next week is going to be Coda, first road course of the season. We're very excited for that. Um, Matthew, do you have any quick closing thoughts? I think we've went on quite long enough.
Um, I do have one quick thing though. During I think this was before the race. Like they had a little stage where some drivers came up. I sent you the post, Jimmy. Denny Hamlin was on stage, and there's people holding up a bunch of these anti Denny Hamlin signs, and it was so fun. You know what's even funnier is that a lot of these people they were telling how much he sucks, how much he's a big what. Look at the little boards that we're writing on. They couldn't even spell some of these words right. I mean, I mean, and of course, a lot of them were these Elliott slash Hendrick people that were doing that. So, shocker there. But I mean, if you're gonna be hating on the driver, especially if you're shoving that right in front of his face, at least learn how to spell. Spell your words. So that's all I'm going. I had to point that out there because that was hilarious. Plus Hamlin won too, so that was even more hilarious.
And then there was another video on that clip of a guy bringing some cucumbers up, and then at the end of the race, I saw somebody threw them like on the track, and then Denny Hamlin somehow got them in victory lane, and he was like, "The sword actually works," and he was like cutting them up in victory lane. So that was pretty funny. That's the absolute reason I love Denny Hamlin just as a guy. He loves to talk trash and all that kind of stuff, but anyways, yeah, that's gonna go ahead and wrap it up for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, made it this long through the video. But yeah, make sure you guys like and subscribe it, and we'll see you guys in the next video.